ladies and gentlemen, to another great episode of
The Basement.
My name is Tristen.
My name is Ezra.
And we like to talk about things theologically, practically, and hilariously.
Yes.
And today, we're going to continue on in our survey of the books of the Bible, which is so fun so far. We went over Leviticus. That was really fun. And I'm so glad that we covered how Leviticus is more or less a guide of how to live a life well, rather than just laws and regulations saying, you do this, you punished, you do this, you rewarded. And then we're going to be in Numbers today.
Numbers.
The book of Numbers. So the book of Numbers is actually kind of interesting, because it's not about numbers as much as you would think.
How so?
So, within the book of Numbers, it actually is a continuation of the story of Exodus.
Okay.
Leviticus takes a pause on that and says, all right, hey, y'all need to understand what it means to live a holy life and how the priests are supposed to act. Numbers is then like, all right, now we can continue the story again. And then it talks about a bunch of the events that lead up to the Israelites making it to the edge of the promised land. And then they're like, nope, never mind, we don't want the promised land. So God's like, all right, fine, 40 years in the wilderness. And so they go into the 40 years in the wilderness. And it covers some of the events that happened within those 40 years. So Leviticus is definitely like the pause book, then Numbers is the continuation.
Okay.
And so, yeah, Numbers, the name Numbers does not sound like it's going to be a continuation, but just hang with us.
Okay.
We promise. I promise.
Were there bishops in there?
I think there are 2.
Excellent. E2, bishop.
Smooth like butter. Man, what are you doing this? Alright, so, first couple of chapters, obviously about numbers.
Oh, we should pause. We should remind the guests the importance of our perspective.
Yes. So here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is our perspective, and this is our accumulation of everything we've learned and our own study and thoughts. Do your own research, so then you can be able to understand the Bible in your own way. We want to make sure that we're encouraging your own study and your own dive into the Word of God, because we don't want to be viewed as, like, the standard of truth. The Bible's the standard of truth. So,
we ain't gonna catch you quoting us. You're gonna quote the Bible. Yeah.
That is so true.
We're not making a religion called T&E.
We can make a TV show out of it, though.
T&E TV.
See? Marketing.
Marketing. Alright, we can continue now.
Alright, so, Numbers begins with counting people.
Wow!
Whoa!
Boy, here we go!
Book of Numbers talking about counting?
That's crazy.
No way. Yep. God's like, you need to count your people. So, here they go. They count everybody in every single tribe. There's 12 tribes, 1 for each of the sons of Jacob. And they count them all.
And the father of, and the son of, and the father of, and the father of, and the father of.
And they did a little historical genealogy there.
Yes.
But yeah. So let's read why they need to take a census. So, chapter 1, verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses in the tent of meeting in the wilderness of Sinai, on the first day of the 2nd month of the 2nd year after Israel's departure from the land of Egypt. They've only been out of Egypt for 2 years.
Oh.
Take a census of the entire Israelite community by their clans and their ancestral houses, so basically like smaller family sections.
Like their last names, but it's not last names yet.
Counting the names of every male one by one. You and Aaron are to register those who are 20 years old or more by their military divisions. Everyone who can serve in Israel's army. A man from each tribe is to be with you, each one the head of his ancestral house. And these are the names of the men who will assist you. They have a representative for each of the 12 tribes, and they're helping count the people of their tribes. Jump down to verse 16. These are the men called from the community. They are leaders of their ancestral tribes, the heads of Israel's clans. So Moses and Aaron took these men who had been designated by name, and they assembled the whole community on the first day of the second month. They recorded their ancestry by their clans and their ancestral houses, counting one by one the names of those 20 years old or more, just as the Lord commanded Moses. He registered them in the wilderness of Sinai. So, God is setting up the first idea of like what it means to build an army, because he specifically says 20 years old or older, who are of military value, and they're men. It's only men that are being counted, not the women. And so, with this count, they're able to understand their strength as a nation of Israel, and God's wanting them to see how much He actually has provided for them by, like, saying, "Hey, you've been in slavery, but you have this many guys." And so they're counting each of the tribes, and from Reuben you have 46,500. From Simeon you have 59,300. From Gad you have 45,650. And these large numbers of men in each tribe. And it's like, wow, that's a lot of people. And yeah, there was a ton of people. Egypt had found a way to keep all of these people under wraps and in slavery, but somehow the Israelites were blessed to multiply. And they have so many people. It's crazy. And of course they need land at this point, because it's like, you gotta need some space for over like 500,000 people.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a lot. Oh wait, yeah, here's the number. All these registered numbered 603,550.
Wow.
And that's only the men 20 years old or older.
Wow.
That's not counting women, and that's not counting children.
That's crazy.
Right? So, like, Israel big right now. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
And they're just out in the middle of the wilderness. They don't have the land yet. So, they're just doing their thing out in the wilderness. Then it goes into duties of the Levites. But the Levites were not registered. Verse 47 of chapter 1. But the Levites were not registered with them by their ancestral tribe. For the Lord had told Moses, do not register or take a census of the tribe of Levi with other Israelites. Appoint the Levites over the tabernacle of the testimony, all its furnishings, and everything in it. They are to transport the tabernacle and all its articles, take care of it, and camp around it. Whenever the tabernacle is to move, the Levites are to take it down, and whenever it is to stop at a campsite, the Levites are to set it up. Any unauthorized person who comes near it must be put to death. The Israelites are to camp by their military divisions, each man with his encampment and under his banner. The Levites are to camp around the tabernacle of the testimony and watch over it, so that no wrath will fall on the Israelite community. The Israelites did everything just as the Lord had commanded Moses. So the Levites are held back from this military census, because the Levites had the job of priests. And if you're a priest, you don't fight. Fairly simple. So Levites get like this special position within Israel. They won't get any special land necessarily. They'll get specific cities, but they won't get like a whole plot of land. So the Levites have a very specific job. They get some pros and cons to the job. So it's not like Levites are being unfairly blessed. They have like some sacrifices to be made because they are Levites and priests. And then God specifically tells the Israelites how to camp around this tent of meeting. The tent of meeting is going to be in the center of the Israelites when they're camping. And God separates each of the 12 tribes into 4 sections. One for the north, one for the south, one for the east and the west. And he's setting up structure, he's setting up organization, he's making sure that these guys know what it means to be organized as a nation. Because again, slavery mindset. They don't have any idea of how to be organized and how to be efficient. And so, yeah, they're just being formed and molded into this nation that has order in the middle of what was once chaos. And then you get into the Levitical census. They're going to count the Levites, but it's going to be separate from the military census. Then there's going to be the split up of the Levites into 3 groups based upon the families. Kohathites, Gershonites, and Merarites. And each of these groups are going to have a different task when it comes to the tabernacle.
Okay.
And they're going to be picking up certain pieces of the tabernacle. One family picks up another set of pieces for the tabernacle, and they hold on to their pieces. They make sure that those ones are theirs. No one else touches them. And then it's going to talk a little bit more about some laws and regulations that are kind of like a crossover from Leviticus. And now here's an interesting chapter, chapter 6. It's about the Nazirite vow, which affects a couple of characters later in the Bible. So the Nazirite vow. So the Lord instructs Moses, speak to Israelites and tell them when a man or woman makes a special vow, a Nazirite vow, to consecrate himself to the Lord, he is to abstain from wine and beer. He must not drink vinegar made from wine or from beer. He must not drink any grape juice or eat fresh grapes or raisins. He is not to eat anything produced by the grapevine from seeds to skin during his vow. You must not cut his hair throughout the time of his vow of consecration. He must be holy until the time is completed, during which he consecrates himself to the Lord. He is to let the hair of his head grow long. He must not go near a dead body during the time he consecrates himself to the Lord. He is not to defile himself for his father or mother or his brother or sister when they die, because the hair consecrated to his God is on his head. He is holy to the Lord during the time of consecration. So, 3 main sections here. No alcohol. Don't cut the hair. Stay away from dead bodies.
Not just no alcohol, it's nothing from the grapevine.
Right, nothing from the grapevine. Like, total abstinence. So then there's no compromise whatsoever. Like, if you think about it, like, don't eat a single fresh grape. Like, you're completely cutting yourself off from the entire idea of grapes or beer or whatever. And it's like God's making sure that there's no compromise. If you eat a fresh grape, there can be a thought in your mind that is like, okay, I could possibly eat a fermented grape. And possibly because I ate a fermented grape and it's fine. What's wrong with wine? And if I drink grape juice, what's the difference between grape juice and wine? It's just fermented. And so there's this idea of compromise that can be incorporated in one's thought when they're making this vow. So God is making sure that there's no line that they can, no gray area. There's like a fresh line in the ground and they're like, you cannot cross that.
Yeah.
Do not touch the grape. Don't even touch it.
What was the reason for the vow?
Consecration to the Lord. They're setting themselves aside as a special person for God.
For how long is it?
I believe that's a great question on the duration. Because if you go to the book of Judges, you have Samson. And Samson was called, like, God's instructions to his mother and father was that he would have a Nazirite vow. That Nazirite vow lasted his entire life. Or was supposed to. And that was a special case, I believe.
Yeah.
This, I don't know.
It says, then he shall shave his head on the day of his cleansing, On the seventh day he shall shave it.
So that's if someone suddenly dies near him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if someone suddenly dies near him, defiling his consecrated head of hair, he must shave his head on the day of his purification. He says, shave it on the 7th day. On the 8th day is to bring 2 turtle doves, 2 young pigeons to the priest at the entrance at the tent of meeting. So basically, this person who made the Nazirite vow, someone accidentally dies next to them, they're trying to reconsecrate themselves and try to complete their vow properly. Then it says, this is the law of the Nazirite. On the day his time of consecration is completed, he must be brought to the entrance to the tent of meeting. From what this tells me, this is a set-up vow of you have a particular timeline you set up with God of how long you're going to consecrate yourself to Him. And I'm guessing this is not going to be like, yeah, I'm going to do this for a week. No, this is like months or years sort of thing. And because of this, they are given instructions to present the proper offerings. So this is something that is made aware to the Levites. Made aware to the leaders of their clans and ancestral homes. So, like, this is a big deal. So they're consecrating themselves, they're abstaining from alcohol, from grapes, they're abstaining from cutting their hair. And this is man or woman. So, either one could do it. And then they don't go near a dead body, because that would be getting close to death, which the wages of sin is death. And so they're not supposed to go near death. So this is an entire idea that affects a few people within the Bible. The main one that we see is Samson, the book of Judges. And when we get to the book of Judges, we can see his compromise of his Nazirite vow. Just small little compromises, and of course the obvious big ones.
Where he had a lady that he slept with, and then bippity-boppity, she cut his hair.
Right. There are a lot of things Samson did that was not great. But it all happened earlier than you might think. It was all... We'll take the green one. Alright, here, have the green one. So that's the Nazirite vow. It's a very, very important vow. Probably one of the most, probably one of the most, like, important vows one could make. Because it's not like, I vow to do this in order so that this can be done. Like, this is just one that you're consecrating yourself to the Lord. And it's not like, I vow to mow the lawn or something. Like, people could still do their normal daily lives stuff while they made this vow. But it was super important that this vow was addressed and people could have this as an option to be with God. And then we have a couple of offerings. And by a couple, I mean a lot.
Oh, wow.
So, the 12 tribes. Each leader of the 12 tribes brought offerings to God and to the Levites. And these offerings were more than just the animal offerings. This was offerings of precious metals, of spices, of grains, stuff. This was all meant to be, like, the entire nation is now being organized, it's being set up as, like, individual clans. They all have their specific banner, which is cool. That'd be cool to see, actually, to see what each person's banner was. And each clan is now like, alright, we're going to make an offering to God, because each of us are now tribes that we're now being set up, we have leadership, we have all this, and we're consecrating ourselves to God. And we're starting out as a nation. And all of this stuff that they bring helps build up the tabernacle. Helps make it better. and will supply the incense for it for months and years to come, and helps supply like precious metals in order to repair articles and all that fun stuff. In total, the dedication, verse 84 of chapter 7. This was a dedication gift from the leaders of Israel for their altar when it was anointed. 12 silver dishes, 12 silver basins, 12 gold bowls. Each silver dish weighed 3¼ pounds, and each basin 1¾ pounds. Total weight of silver articles was 60 pounds. The 12 gold bowls of incense each weighed 4 ounces, measured by a standard sanctuary shekel. Total weight of the gold was 3 pounds. All the livestock for the burnt offerings totaled 12 bulls, 12 rams, and 12 male lambs, a year old, with their grain offerings, and 12 male goats for the sin offering. All the livestock for the fellowship sacrifice totaled 24 bulls, 60 rams, 60 male breeding goats, and 60 male lambs, a year old. This was the dedication gift for the altar after it was anointed. When Moses entered the tent of meeting to speak to the Lord, he heard the voice speaking to him from above the mercy seat that was on the ark of the testimony from between the 2 cherubim. He spoke to him that way. So that's pretty cool.
Cherubim are like the weird winged angel with the eyes thing, right? Like the 6 wings with feet that cover their eyes or something.
So, for what was on the Ark of the Covenant, it was just 2 angels with their wings kind of curved inwards. They didn't have like the cover the face, cover the feet sort of thing going on. It was just like 2 small little figurines of angels with the wings on it, pointing inwards on the top part of the Ark of the Covenant, which was removable. So it was basically the lid of the Ark of the Covenant, and that lid was called the mercy seat. And so God kind of rested there, because that's where the blood from the sacrifices was put, and the sacrifice itself would be on there. There was a lid on the Ark of the Covenant because they placed specific things in the Ark of the Covenant that they would always carry with them throughout their history at specific important events. And we'll go through Numbers, and it talks about some of these things. One of them is a jar of manna. They grab some manna, stuck it in a jar, put it in the Ark of the Covenant. That's one of them. The other one was the stone tablets. They always carried those around in the Ark of the Covenant. The third thing was Aaron's rod, which had started budding and was producing almonds off of it. They stuck that in the Ark of the Covenant. So, in this Ark of the Covenant, you have 3 significant things. You have the law, you have the provision, and you have the leadership of God in there. And whenever they would parade, eventually it was like Jericho, they would parade around the city walls 7 times. They were carrying the leadership of God, the provision of God, and the law of God with them all the way around Jericho. So this was an extremely significant article of the tabernacle. And there was a specific way that they carried this Ark of the Covenant. They used rods, and there were rings attached to the sides of the Ark of the Covenant on the long side, so that was easier to carry that way. But they had these rods because you were not supposed to touch the Ark of the Covenant directly. If you did, you just fall over dead. Just gone. And in 2 Samuel, one Israelite who was trying to help get the Ark of the Covenant from one point to another, he was on an ox cart, which was not proper. He was trying to save the Ark of the Covenant from touching the ground. Well, he touched the Ark of the Covenant, and then immediately God killed him. Like, it literally says God's anger burned against him, and he just died. Because he touched it. There's a few things wrong with that entire situation. first of all, like it being on an ox cart. It was supposed to be carried by the rods and by Levitical priests. And then he also, the Israelites were instructed not to directly touch it. So then God's like, you have disobeyed me. You die.
Right.
So he just, like, dies. And it's the craziest thing. And David's like, okay, we're not moving it anymore. And it ends up being put inside this one guy's house. And that guy ends up getting blessed because it's in there. But, that's a side tangent. The Ark of the Covenant is so significant for the entire nation of Israel throughout its history. And I don't know if people today know where the Ark of the Covenant is. It still exists. They just don't know where it is, I think. And so, yeah, it's just so significant because that's where God would be in the Jews' minds, was that they were carrying God with them everywhere they went because of this Ark of the Covenant.
So, you think that if the Ark of the Covenant was found and they opened it, do you think the stuff would still be in there preserved?
That's a great question. I don't know. Because I don't know what...
This is a thought, because, like, Jesus died on the cross, right? And so those laws are, like, lifted, right? Do you think there'd still be significance of the Ark of the Covenant?
I would think that the things inside of the Ark of the Covenant could still be alive, like, there. It could also be turned to dust just because of age. But I think it could be there because that would be, like, the significance of showing, like, oh, so these stories were real.
Yeah.
This God is real, sort of thing. But then again, God is God. He does whatever he wants with that sort of stuff. Does the Ark of the Covenant have the same power of God infused with it? I don't think so. Given the fact that, like, this Ark of the Covenant was meant to be the housing spot where God rests his presence, in order so that the Israelites didn't die just being in God's presence. So, now that we have salvation from Jesus, there's no reason for the Ark of the Covenant anymore. I don't think it has that significant power. It obviously does not have that, like, influence it once had because it's, like, lost somewhere. So, I'm not sure. Mostly because, like, God will do what he does with that sort of stuff because he instructed it to be built. He put his presence on it. He instructed these things be put in it. So he can do whatever he wants with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Just because, like, I think about, like, God is the same today, yesterday, and forever. If he had significance on it then, don't you think he'd have significance on it now?
I think that phrase saying God is the same yesterday, today, and forever is used extremely literally for more situations than it should. Given the fact that there have been a few people in the Bible who have seemingly convinced God to change his mind. Abraham, when he's talking with God, asking about Sodom and Gomorrah. Seemingly, he's changing God's mind. Seemingly. Second one, Mary, wife of Joseph, mother of Jesus. She goes to Jesus at the wedding at a town called Cana. And she tells Jesus, hey, these people, they need some wine. And Jesus is like, Mother, this is not my time yet. She's like, you can do it, though. I know you can. Please. And she convinces him to go through with doing a miracle at this wedding. So, there have, like, God being completely stuck within a set of things that we've seen him do, and just, he only does those things, I think is very limiting of what he will do, or what he can do. So, if he is, because he can be fully justified to let the things within the Ark of the Covenant turn to dust. He's fully justified in that. He can do that.
Yeah.
And, like, it will not be against his character for that to happen.
Yeah.
And, it's also not against his character to leave the Ark of the Covenant hidden either. And so, it's like... And he's also told us, like, in a roundabout way that these things were meant as symbols for a time. And all, like, these symbols are all pointing towards Jesus and salvation and the eventual redemption that we all get to experience. So God can do what he wants with the symbols he creates and stuff. He can choose when he will continue to use them and when he won't. And we can't limit him into whether or not use him or whether he will.
Yeah.
So
that's fair. I'm just, I kind of just like sometimes think, I'm like, well, there's a whole lot of things that say one thing and then say another thing, but at the same time it's like, it doesn't really. So that's a confusing saying, I guess I just said, but it's, you hear from a lot of people, like things that I guess contradict, but Jesus doesn't contradict himself.
Right. It's the idea of the paradox.
Yeah. What?
It's the idea of paradoxes. Two things are equally true, but for some reason, because of how we comprehend logic and reasoning, those two things shouldn't exist at the same time. In Christianity, there's a lot of these paradoxes. God's mercy versus God's justice. Like, are you merciful, God, or are you just, God? He's both. And Christianity and the Bible have a way of explaining the truths of the universe and humanity and morality in presenting two things that seem to be in opposition of each other, in the tension of that they are true, they're both true, and you can't lean one way or the other, otherwise you'll create a heretical faith or a cult or something. Like, if you don't hold them both equally, it will lead down a path that is not of the Word of God.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I'm so intrigued by the Bible, because it does do that. It's like, it does answer the hard questions of like, but God, if you do miracles, why don't I always see miracles?
Yeah.
And stuff. Or, like, the idea of, like, this person lived a life of good works, yet you say that these types of people aren't guaranteed to go to heaven. Like, those sorts of ideas. And if there's a good God, why do bad things happen? Like, all these questions in our mind, the Bible and God have answers for. So.
Yeah. It is a thing that comes up a lot, is like, if God's such a good thing, why does he let bad things happen? That's a big hot topic.
It is a big hot topic, which we could definitely talk about in a different episode and go more into depth about that for sure. But yeah, I love talking about that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
So in the Book of Numbers.
So back on the covenant.
All right, we go back into the Book of Numbers. They have their second Passover. They've come out of Egypt. This is their first Passover out of slavery. Then they're guided by a cloud. They have 2 silver trumpets that are specifically made. This is the calling. These 2 trumpets are meant to call all the tribes together for a certain point and direct them and do this sort of organization still. Then they go traveling. They go from Sinai to a place called Paran. And the cloud is still leading them, and the pillar of fire by night.
Yes. Okay. Give reason for that again. Just for people who missed, what's the fire pillar of fire.
Okay, so in the book of Exodus,
yes,
when they cross the Red Sea, a pillar of fire leads the Israelites by night, and a cloud leads the Israelites by day.
Mm-hmm.
This is God's presence in the form of pillar of fire, cloud.
Mm-hmm.
It is Him giving them direction, and that leads them wherever they need to go. They don't know where the heck they're going, so they need something, and so God gives them these two pillars.
Pillars. Both of them are pillars?
One's a pillar of fire, the other one's got to be like pillar of cloud or something.
Yeah, the cloud.
Yeah.
It's interesting, because we look at clouds now, and it's like, clouds are everywhere. How are you going to follow a cloud? It's like,
well, they're in the Middle East, so weather works very differently over in the Middle East. It's a little bit more dry over there.
Oh.
And it's in a wilderness, so it's very dry. So, yeah, vertical cloud would also make more sense of making it easier if there were clouds in the sky.
Or if there wasn't a clouds in the sky, it's just one cloud. That'd make it really easy to follow.
Right, that's true. It's true. But yeah, the cloud could technically provide shade for Israel. So, the pillar of cloud could provide shade for the land of Israel as they're traveling. Pillar of fire could provide warmth for the tribe of Israel. And light at night.
Yes.
So, God is smart.
Yes.
He's so smart.
Well, obviously, yes. Alright, so now we've gotten our context. Now I can go back in.
Okay. And then, after all these things that God has done for them, and all the cool organization and sacrifices and all this, the people of Israel are getting a little tired. They're getting a little tired. They're getting a little hangry. The people of Israel start complaining about food.
Yes.
They're hungry. They want something. And so, chapter 11. Excuse me. Now the people began complaining openly before God about hardship. When the Lord heard, his anger burned, and fire from the Lord blazed against them and consumed the outskirts of camp. Dang. Like, you start complaining.
Don't get cranky with God.
Right? You start complaining with God. He sends fire to the outskirts of the camp. Just like, oh really? You think, alright. Ring of fire, now.
Yeah.
Then the people cried out to Moses, and he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So that place was named Deborah, because the Lord's fire had blazed against them. So that was one of their first complaints. They saw what God did when they complained. Fire. Got it. Then they started complaining again. Contemptible people among them had a strong craving for other food. The Israelites cried again and said, "Who will feed us meat? We remember the free fish we ate in Egypt, along with the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now our appetite is gone. There's nothing to look at but this manna." The manna resembled coriander seed, and its appearance was like that of bdellium. The people walked around and gathered it. They ground it on a pair of grinding stones or crushed it in a mortar, then boiled it in a cooking pot and shaped it into cakes. It tasted like a pastry cooked with the finest oil. When the dew fell on the camp at night, the manna would fall with it. Let's give them context for the manna. The manna was specially given to the Israelites because, again, they had complained about food, so God sent them manna. And now they're complaining about the manna that they had received for complaining about food. But there's a constant cycle of complaining. Moses heard the people, family after family, crying at the entrance of their tents. That's ridiculous. The Lord was very angry. Moses was also provoked. So Moses asked the Lord, "Why have you brought such trouble on your servant? Why are you angry with me? And why do you burden me with all these people? Did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth so you should tell me? Carry them at your breast as a nursing woman carries a baby. The land that you swore to give to their fathers? Where can I get meat to give all these people? For they are crying to me, give us meat to eat. I can't carry all these people by myself. They are too much for me. If you're going to treat me like this, please kill me now.
Wow.
If you are pleased with me, don't let me see my misery anymore. Moses has had it with these people.
Yeah.
He has had it.
So Lord said to Moses, gather me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people and officers over them. Bring them to the tabernacle of meeting, that they may stand there with you. Then I will come down and talk with you there. I will take of the Spirit that is upon you, I will put the same upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with you, that you may not bear it for yourself alone.
That's kind of cool, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that kind of gives, gives validity to the whole, you cannot walk in Christ alone kind of thing. It's like, you can't carry everything by yourself. You gotta have your people around you.
And it's interesting how, like, the first complaint that people did in this chapter, Lord punished them for complaining, and then the people cried out to Moses, and then Moses cried out to God, and then the fire died down. This time they complain, people complain, Lord's angry, but Moses is angry and talks to God and asks, why does this happen? And then the Lord's like, all right, here are some people to help you out. So Moses and God have this relationship where they're able to calm each other down, which is interesting to think about because God is God. But it's like they're balancing each other out in a way, which is crazy to think about. Like God and you as a human being, Moses as a human being, are able to balance each other out in leadership somehow. Even though God is God, He can lead. He can totally lead people. He's allowing Moses to be a balance. It's like
kind of letting Moses be the speaker of the people.
Yeah, be the speaker of the people. He's allowing this relationship to work. It's like, oh my gosh. And then the Lord's like, you put up a good point. Here, get 70 men. Let them help you out. Because again, this is a lot for one person. Understandable. Okay? Then the Lord, after hearing the complaints, actually blesses the nation of Israel instead of trying to kill them with fire. He sends a bunch of quail to them. A wind sent by the Lord came up, blew quail in from the sea. It dropped them out the camp all around, 3 feet off the ground, about a day's journey in every direction. The people were up all that day and night, and all the next day gathering the quail. The one who took the least gathered 50 bushels. That's a lot of quail. And they spread them out all around the camp. While the meat was still between their teeth, before it was chewed, here's the crazy part, the Lord's anger burned against the people, and the Lord struck them with a very severe plague. So He gave them quail, and then gave them a plague. Because it's like, oh my gosh, how do we understand this? He gave them what they wanted, and then He gave them what they deserved. He gave them the quail, and He gave them a plague.
That's crazy.
Right? It's like, God does not put up with complaining.
Yeah.
He does not put up with it.
Was there a specific rule for how much they were supposed to gather?
God just sent the quail, allowed the Israelites to gather up the quail. They're eating it. He sent a plague. It's like, all because they complained.
Wow.
Right? So, like, whenever the Israelites complained, whenever they rebelled, people died.
Well, now we learn.
Right? So here's a big thing to think about. God does not put up with complaining.
Yeah. neither should parents.
Right? Complaining is not trying to understand the situation and just asking questions of God, why is this happening? Like, there's a difference between, like, being inquisitive and being curious and, like, asking God, why is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing all the right things. Or, I am living with this great family. Why do I feel this inside me?
Yeah.
This is more you trying to find answers.
Yeah.
Rather than what the Israelites were doing.
Sitting in one spot and be like, hey, give me something better. I hate this.
Right? They were complaining that they weren't eating the melons,
Mm-hmm.
the leeks, the garlic, the onions, that they probably didn't even have that good of access to because they were in slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And they were complaining that their old masters treated them better than their new one. Think about that for a second. You're complaining to God, created everything,
Mm-hmm.
that other humans, created beings,
Doing a better job than what God's doing.
Exactly.
That sounds like a punch to the face.
Right? It's a slap in the face. After everything God has done for them about getting them out of slavery, splitting the Red Sea, giving them manna, creating organization within their Israelite tribes, they really did punch him in the face.
Yeah.
And then Miriam and Aaron rebel. Miriam and Aaron are the two siblings of Moses. Great. The sibling rivalry has arrived. Chapter 12. Miriam and Aaron criticized Moses because of the Cushite woman he married. For he had married a Cushite woman. Well, thank you for putting that in parentheses. They said, does the Lord speak only through Moses? Does he not also speak through us? And the Lord heard it. Moses was a very humble man. That's a very interesting way to put that, because Moses wrote this. More so than any man on the face of the earth. Huh.
Very, very humble.
Suddenly the Lord said to Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, you three come out to the tent of meeting. So the three of them went out. Then the Lord descended in a pillar of cloud. There you go. Stood at the entrance of the tent and summoned Aaron and Miriam. When the two of them came forward, he said, listen to what I say. Is there a prophet among you from the Lord? I make myself known to him in a vision. I speak with him in a dream. Not so with my servant Moses. He is faithful in all my household. I speak with him directly, openly, and not in riddles. He sees the form of God. So why are you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? The Lord's anger burned against them, and he left. As the cloud moved away from the tent, Miriam's skin suddenly became diseased, as white as snow. When Aaron turned toward her, he saw that she was diseased and said to Moses, my Lord, please don't hold against us this sin we have so foolishly committed. Please don't let her be like a dead baby whose flesh is half eaten away when he comes out of his mother's womb. Then Moses cried out to Lord God, please heal her. The Lord answered Moses, if her father had merely spit in her face, wouldn't she remain in disgrace for 7 days? Let her be confined outside the camp for 7 days. After that, she may be brought in. So Miriam was confined outside the camp for 7 days. The people did not move on until Miriam was brought back in. After that, the people set out from Hazeroth and camped in the wilderness of Paran. You know, given the fact that Miriam is the one that's truly punished here, I think Aaron just kind of was there as emotional support, rather than like, yeah, let's get him. Like, Miriam and Aaron did not. Here's what I'm picturing, based upon how God treated both of them. Miriam was the mastermind. She talked to Aaron. She convinced Aaron to go with her. He was still hesitant, but he still did it anyways. So Miriam was the real one that was trying to confront Moses and all that. That's what's coming to mind based upon what God did. Just because of that.
Yeah.
It's a thought, but we don't really don't know.
We really don't know, but that's my thought, because Aaron does not receive the disease punishment.
Mm.
He doesn't, unless because he's in proximity to the disease, he has to do all this sort of stuff in order to consecrate himself, because he's the high priest.
Mm-hmm.
So there is part of the punishment for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is weird. That is just so weird to my mind that Aaron doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
But anyways, then we get into the 12 spies sent out to the land of Canaan. Each of these guys sent out, they're going into the land. They go walking around, they go see the land is bountiful of so many fruits and vegetables and the grains, and the cities are populous and all that. And 10 of them notice the giants. And they're like, uh-oh. I don't want to deal with giants.
Mm-hmm.
2 of them come back carrying a pool of grapes. Think about that for a second. They have to use a pole to carry the whole strand of grapes.
Wow.
And they bring it into camp. And those 2 are Caleb and Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those guys will become significant later on, because they were faithful towards God.
Mm-hmm.
The other 10 gave a false report. They were like, there's giants in these lands. We can't fight them. They viewed us as grasshoppers. Interesting. Given the fact that you're the one who's spying and scouting the land. How do you know? So, then Israel is just not wanting to enter the land of Canaan at all. And God is mad at them for good reason. Because they're refusing to go into the land that he promised them they would have.
Yeah.
And they're afraid of a few giants, and they don't have faith that God will save them or help them out. So here's their punishment. Verse 31 of chapter 14. I'll bring your children, whom you said would become plunder into the land you rejected, and they will enjoy it. But as for you, your corpses will fall in this wilderness. Your children will be shepherds in the wilderness for 40 years, and bear the penalty for your acts of unfaithfulness, till all your corpses lie scattered in the wilderness. You will bear the consequences of your sins 40 years, based on the number of 40 days that you scouted the land, a year for each day. You will know my displeasure. I, the Lord, have spoken. I swear that I will do this to the entire evil community that has conspired against me. They will come to an end in the wilderness, and there they will die. So the men Moses sent to scout out the land, and who returned and incited the entire community to complain about him by spreading a negative report about the land, those men who spread the negative report about the land were struck down by God directly. Only Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh remained alive of those men who went to scout the land. So, the reason why God's so harsh about this was because Abraham and God had this covenant. God promised there would be land for your descendants, Abraham. And Israelites understood this. They were told these things passed down through their generations. They heard this. And this is a covenant, so this is binding in better way than like a contract that you signed your name with. This was so binding.
Yeah.
And this entire nation was consecrated to God. They were God's chosen people. They were going to do whatever God asked until they saw the giants. And they refused to step into what God had promised would be there for them. And they rebelled against God and thought that they knew better about what was best for them, saying, we can't do anything against these descendants of Anak. We got a plan B. When you work with God, you don't make a plan B without God. And God had been completely disrespected, completely slapped in the face, because he's showing them the land that they're going to get. A gift from a father who wants to show his children the nations that they're going to conquer, and the land that they're going to produce stuff from, and they slap him in the face. And again, and again, and again, they do this to him in the wilderness. They do this to God. He gives them something that they've been wanting for years and decades and generations, and they just complain about it. They slap him in the face. And so 40 years, they're out in the wilderness. Each one of those who complained died, and the children get to take on the land. And it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Humanity is broken.
Yeah.
Humanity is so broken, man. It's nuts. Like, oh my gosh. It's like, we wonder why God is so harsh in the Old Testament. And being like, that's why some people don't want to believe in God, is because they see the Old Testament, they see what God did, and they're just like, nope, I don't want to believe in a God that kills his own chosen people.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is how significant everything God did for the Israelites was. And all the cultural context and all the sacrifices that were being made and all the blessings that were being provided and the absolute rebellion that Israelites followed through with.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Israelites continue to not learn. In chapter 16, another guy decides that he's better than Moses.
Right.
Korah is his name. He decides he's better than Moses, and he starts gaining a following within the entire tribe, entire nation of Israel. And you know what happens to him and his entire family?
Death.
They get swallowed up by the earth.
Oh, the earth gets. Oh, that's right. Okay.
The earth opens up. Their tents, everything, fall into the earth. Close back up. They're gone.
That's crazy.
Right? It's just like, oh my gosh. And then God took a plague and sent it against the Israelites too. So the entire family of Korah gets swallowed up by the earth, and then all the people who decide to go along with Korah, who weren't part of his family, they have a plague among them. 14,700 died.
Wow.
Like,
That's a little special.
yeah. It's just like, when will these people learn?
Yeah.
When will these people learn? They don't learn a single thing. They keep doing the same cycle over and over and over again. And it's just dumb.
Yeah.
So dumb. Yet we still do it today. If you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah, and so that's what we see in today's society, where people are removing statues and things are going to start happening again.
Right? It's the constant cycle of humanity of they want something good, they get something, they complain about it, they rebel, and they try to get something better. You know, they have the thing that they complained they wanted.
Yep, and then the rebelling causes them to delete history.
Right?
Which you can't delete history, it'll just repeat itself. Like you said.
So yeah. I know this is not as happy of an episode, given the fact of how many deaths happen in the book of Numbers.
Dead.
But this is what happens when people just choose to completely disrespect and disregard God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not just, like, you're having a friendly dispute. No, this is like you are acting like you completely hate the person.
Mm.
They're acting like they completely hate God and just view him as a nobody.
Which is not bueno.
Right. They're just viewing him as a nobody. They believe themselves to either be their own gods or view other gods as their gods and completely disregard the one who saved them, actually saved them. So these are signs of hate.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit of happiness in the middle of this. In chapter 17, it shifts over to Aaron.
The budding of Aaron's rod.
So, chapter 17. The Lord instructed Moses, speak to the Israelites and take one staff from each of them for each ancestral house. 12 staffs from all the leaders of their ancestral houses. So this is after Korah. He's doing something significant to show who's a leader. Write each man's name on his staff. Write Aaron's name on Levi's staff, because there must be one staff for the head of each ancestral house. Then place them in the tent of meeting in front of the testimony where I meet with you. Staff of the man I choose will sprout, and I will rid myself of the Israelites' complaints that they have been making against you. So Moses spoke to the Israelites, and each of your leaders gave him a staff, one for each of the leaders in the ancestral houses, 12 staffs in all. Aaron's staff was among them. Moses placed the staffs before the Lord in the tent of testimony. The next day, Moses entered the tent of the testimony and saw that Aaron's staff, representing the house of Levi, had sprouted, formed buds, blossomed, and produced almonds. Moses then brought out all the staffs from the Lord's presence to all the Israelites. They saw them, and each man took his staff. The Lord told Moses, put Aaron's staff back in front of the testimony to be kept as a sign for the rebels, so that you may put an end to the complaints before me, or else they will die. So Moses did as the Lord commanded. Then Israelites declared to Moses, look, we're perishing, we're lost, we're all lost. Anyone who comes near the Lord's tabernacle will die. Will we all perish?
Bruh. They just go to complain again?
Well, in this case, they're not complaining. This is fear of the Lord. This is fear of the Lord talk right here.
Okay.
They're like, crap.
We messed up.
We messed up big time.
Done did mess something up, bruh.
So, then we go into more purification and support for the Levites and the priests. And just more setup for the Levites.
Yeah.
Getting more setup. They have to be reestablished as Levites and stuff, whatever. Then you have a mistake made by Moses.
Smack on the rock.
Yep.
He gets angry.
Right? The Israelites complain once again. They have no water. They complain.
Yeah.
And they complain in a way that is... They're not like, man, we need water. Can you ask God? They're not complaining that way. They're complaining like, God killed our brothers. What are we going to do? We're going to die in this wilderness. Well, technically, some of you are. Because he said so. Yeah, said so. But anyways, that's beside the point.
Jesus says, right? Well, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the rod and your brother Aaron, gather the congregation together, speak to the rock before their eyes, and it will yield water. Thus he shall bring water for them out of the rock, and give them to drink the congregation and their animals. So Moses took the rod from before the Lord, as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly together before the rock. And he said to them, hear me now, you rebels. Must bring water for you out of this rock? Then Moses lifted his hand and struck the rock twice with his rod, and the water came out abundantly. The congregation and their animals drank. Then the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, because you did not believe me, to hallow me in the eyes of the children of Israel. Therefore you shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them. This was the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel contended with the Lord, and he was hallowed among them.
So,
got tracked.
Apparently, Moses and Aaron would have been allowed into the land as the leaders. But because of this act
of rebellion,
not following through with what God said, because God wanted him to speak to the rock, and he didn't want Moses to do it out of anger. He didn't want him to. Speak, and the water will come. Because at this point, God's like, these people have seen my anger a lot. I've killed so many of them. And God's like, speak to it. And then Moses takes his anger out on the rock, says, they may have seen your anger, but they haven't seen mine. And he strikes it twice. Not once, twice. And water comes bursting out of his wrap. And God's like, you failed to do what I told you. There was a reason why I told you this to do this. And so Moses and Aaron no longer get to go into the land.
Because of what they did.
Because of what they did. And in the same chapter, Aaron dies. And after chapter 18, verse 22, after they set out from Kadesh, the entire Israelite community comes to Mount Hor. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron at Mount Hor on the border of the land of Edom, Aaron will be gathered to his people. He will not enter the land I have given the Israelites because you both rebelled against my command, the waters of Meribah. Take Aaron and his son Eleazar. Eleazar is a really good guy. He's going to be the next high priest. And bring them up Mount Hor. Remove Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar. See? Next high priest. Aaron will be gathered to his people and die there. So Moses did as the Lord commanded, and they climbed Mount Hor beside the whole community. After Moses removed Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar, Aaron died there on the top of the mountain. We don't know how, he just died on the top of the mountain. He just died up there. I don't know why, but he did. When the whole community saw that Aaron had passed away, the entire house of Israel mourned for him 30 days. Now we get into some fighting. The Israelites end up fighting against some Canaanites. And they win. Yay! They completely destroy the Canaanites and their cities. They completely destroy it. They're done. Then the Israelites complain again.
Yeah.
Like, they never learn. And so they complain, why have you led us up from Egypt to die in the wilderness? There's no bread or water, and we detest this wretched food.
Yeah.
Right? Things that God has provided for them, food and water.
Yeah.
And they hate it.
Yeah.
So God sends poisonous snakes.
Very shitty snakes.
He sends poisonous snakes. Then they all cry out to Moses. And then the Lord tells them exactly what to do. Make a snake image mounted on a pole. When anyone who is bitten looks at it, he will recover. So Moses made a bronze snake, mounted it on the pole. Whenever someone was bitten and looked at the bronze snake, he recovered. So, that's pretty cool. That's a cool little miracle thing that happened there.
Yeah.
It's almost a symbol of Jesus. It's kind of that symbol.
So why was it specifically making a bronze snake?
So bronze, well, the snake was obviously because they were being bitten by poisonous snakes. The bronze part, I think represented judgment.
Okay.
I think. I can't remember exactly what bronze represented, but I think it represented judgment. This is where your own research comes into play. But it's kind of like representative of Jesus. Like Jesus was, it was a sacrifice, one like being as one of those in the crowd and stuff, and the brown snake was a snake, all that, and they looked up at the snake and they were fine. And Jesus, if we look towards him and believe in him, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like that same idea. It's not perfect. Mostly because I probably am not as educated about this bronze snake thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of similar. You can kind of see the similarity. Then some more kings are defeated. Cool. They win some battles. The Israelites are feeling good now. Feeling a little bit better. Then we hear about Balaam. Balaam's a crazy character. So, somehow, Balaam has communication with God. But he's also an oracle for other religions. Because he gets hired by this one king called Balak. Balak wants Balaam to curse Israel. Because Israel just got some victories.
Mm-hmm.
They just beat the crap out of a bunch of bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And Balak is scared.
Mm-hmm.
And God is talking to Balaam and is like, hey, you're not going to curse my people.
Mm-hmm.
No. And Balaam's like, bro, but the money. I want the money. God's like, no, you ain't cursing my people. Balaam chooses to try to curse God's people.
Mm-hmm.
So he takes a donkey. He rides on a donkey. Donkey sees an angel in the middle of the road. And is like, no, I don't want to go towards that. So the donkey is not moving. It's trying to go around. It's trying to move. It's trying to do whatever it can to avoid that angel. It's got a flaming sword. Everything. He sees danger. He knows things not good.
Mm-hmm.
Balaam gets mad at this donkey and starts beating this donkey.
That's no bueno.
No point.
We need to call PETA.
Well, God lets the donkey speak in English.
Not speaking English.
Oh, he does speak English.
Huh?
Yeah, not English. He gets to speak in human tongue, basically.
Yeah, not English.
Not English.
This Bible was not written in English.
That's true. Or Aramaic, or whatever.
Whatever language they spoke at the time, that's the language that the donkey spoke.
Yeah. So the donkey was able to communicate properly with Balaam.
There we go.
And, the donkey is like, have I ever been a stubborn donkey? Have I not done everything you've asked of me?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you see the angel, man? And Balaam turns, and the angel is revealed to him. He's like, uh-oh. Well, crap. And then God speaks to Balaam and is like, all right, you are going to not curse my people, and you're going to do this and this and this instead.
Yeah.
And Balaam's like, okay. Yeah. So Balaam meets the king, Balak. And Balak is like, alright, cool. We're going to start cursing these Israelites, right? And Balaam's going to I'm going to do whatever the Lord says. Sacrifice some animals for me so then I know what I'm doing. And so he does. Mm-hmm. And then Balak starts blessing the nation of Israel. In the presence of Balak. Starts blessing him.
Balaam does?
Mm-hmm. Balaam starts blessing him. Then Balak's like, bro, why are you doing that? What have you done to me? Balak asked Balaam. I brought you to curse my enemies, but look, you have only blessed them. Balaam answered, shouldn't I say exactly what the Lord puts in my mouth? Then Balak said to him, please come with me to another place where you can see. The scenery must not have been right. We're not at the proper elevation for you to hear the proper radio waves from God. So they moved to another spot. He's like, alright, I think you can curse him from here, right? Balaam's like, we'll see. And Balaam blesses them again. It happens this time. It happens a third time. It happens a fourth time. And then Balaam's like, alright, my job is done, apparently. I can't curse these people. I'm only blessing them. So there. Not only that, though, but then Israel starts, worshipping Baal. He starts straight up worshipping a false god.
Isn't Baal like a demon god kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they start worshipping Baal. Not great. And then this happens. Phineas. So you know Eleazar, he was the son of Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Phineas is the son of Eleazar.
Okay.
So far, Eleazar is being a great dad, because this is what Phineas does. So they are worshipping Baal, they're doing sexual perversion and all that. Verse 6 of chapter 25. An Israelite man became bringing a Midianite woman to his relatives in the sight of Moses and the whole Israelite community, while they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. When Phineas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, saw this, he got up from the assembly, took a spear in his hand, followed the Israelite man into the tent, and drove the spear through the Israelite man and woman. Then the plague on the Israelites was stopped. Yeah, another plague was there. But those who died in the plague numbered 24,000.
Wow.
The Lord spoke to Moses, Phineas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest, has turned back my wrath from the Israelites because he was zealous among them with my zeal, so that I did not destroy the Israelites in my zeal. Therefore, declare, I grant him my covenant of peace. It will be a covenant of perpetual priesthood for him and his future descendants, because he was zealous for his God and made atonement for the Israelites. So Phineas did a great thing there.
Good job, Phineas.
Yeah. And then the Israelites go start killing some Midianites because they were persuading them to worship Baal and all that, so they just start killing Midianites. Then there's another census. How many more chapters we got? We got a few.
Maybe we break it up into 2 parts.
Oh no, we're gonna get there. Then you have the case of the daughter's inheritance. That one's kind of cool. That one you should definitely read in your own time. But some daughters are like, hey, we want to be able to have some land. Come to Moses and like, we need some land. And Moses is like, cool, we have a solution for that. So they do. Then Joshua is commissioned to succeed Moses. He's told by God, here you go, you're going to be next. And they talk about some more offerings, festival booths, Day of Atonement, regulations against vows.
Offerings at the tabernacle.
Then they have war with Midian. And they're just straight up going against Midian. They're destroying it. Trans-Jordan settlements. So Reuben and Gad are like, hey, we want to settle this side of the river. So you have the Jordan River that is keeping them on the wilderness side of the promised land. And Reuben and Gad, the tribes, are like, hey, we kind of like this land. We want to settle. We want to settle here. Some people are not happy. Some people are not happy. Because, or maybe they're not on that side. The river. They kind of go over to the other side of the river. And they start taking some cities a little bit. Or maybe not. I don't know. I can't remember. Oh wait, no. Okay. No, they do. It's on the wilderness side of the river. So Gad, Reuben, and half tribe of Manasseh, they're on the wilderness side of the river, and they kind of took some territory. That's where they're at. So they did that. They took some land. They're settling down. They're kind of getting stuff good. But Moses is like, hey, you're going to fight with the rest of your family to help take the promised land when the time comes. They're like, sweet, we'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they get land. They're going to be prepared to go and help take the land with the rest of their family.
Mm-hmm.
Then the boundary lines are set up for what the promised land actually is. Then the leaders are chosen from each one of the tribes of Judah, because everyone died, so there needs to be new leaders. And these leaders are in charge of distributing the land.
Mm-hmm.
Then the cities are, there are cities that are specifically chosen for the Levites. Those ones are right here, chosen by God, saying this city's going to be a city of refuge. That city's going to be a city of refuge. That one. These ones are the Levite towns.
Mm-hmm.
These ones are for the Levites. And what the city of refuge was for a man who had accidentally killed another person. He would run to this city of refuge in order so that he wouldn't die. It was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why he has to run, though, is because the family, the closest male relative to the man who died, or woman, or whoever, would avenge the death. So, the accidental murder person has to run to the city of refuge so he doesn't die. So, and then he stands on trial in that city of refuge.
Okay.
Stays there, and he kind of just lives there. And he's going to stay there until the priest who lives there, the high priest who lives there, dies. Then he gets to be free. And he kind of pays the atonement for, like, you stay in the city of refuge. You did kill somebody. You're going to stay here. Your life's kind of been disrupted, but you're going to stay here until the priest dies. So if you want to leave, you can. But the Avenger will have the opportunity to avenge his brother, sister, mother, father, uncle's death if that guy ever leaves the city at all.
Okay.
So, that's what a city refuge is. It's like protection from death for an accident. And they were spaced strategically throughout Israel. So then it wasn't just like, yeah, you have one just like right here on the coastline, and you're like 200 miles away from it. Correct. I gotta get there. No, it wasn't like that. It was like it was strategically placed so that no matter where you were in Israel, there would always be one close enough for you to get to. So, yeah. And then those daughters that I was talking about, they, Moses ends up getting the land together for them that they would receive, because they had no male representatives for their family. So the daughters were like, we need land in order to live. And so they get a special section of land for them. And Moses sets up, which is really cool.
And then Moses has to stay out of the promised land.
Yep. And then Moses has to stay out of the promised land. And then you get the book of Deuteronomy.
Which we will do next time.
So yeah. But, yeah, that's the book of Numbers. There's a lot that happens in the book of Numbers.
Yeah, we could probably do a more in-depth, like, I think we could do it, like kind of a chapter by chapter at some point, maybe. Like.
Yeah, we can totally do it, because that's so much.
Yeah, is it like a survey, kind of like it's an overview of what there's all in there. So I think if we, one of these times we could do another kind of like in Numbers, but like chapter, like here's a deep dive into this chapter of it, what really is happening, why things are happening.
I think understanding God in the Old Testament is so helpful.
Yeah.
For us, so then we don't just think like the Old Testament God is different from New Testament God.
Yeah.
And we understand the reasons for why he did things.
Yeah.
Stuff. Because there are some people who believe that God is just so wrathful and Old Testament for unknown reasons.
Yeah.
And, well, he did have his reasons.
Yeah.
And it's very different from nowadays because of how our covenant works with him.
Yeah.
And it's all based around covenant. It really is. Around how the covenant works between us and God.
Yeah. And then also, like, Levitical laws versus moral laws.
Yeah.
Like I think before Jesus died for us, we were all based on it. We were supposed to be doing things based on laws subject to how God said we had to do them, right? And now, since Jesus did die on the cross and he did take that, we all have this internal, like, I guess you'd say, gut feeling that it doesn't just come from nowhere. That's the morality part.
Right.
It's like morality isn't just out of nowhere.
Right.
And I think we could go into whole morality at some point, for why morality, what gives us morality, like reasons for things. It's like moral law is you do things because obviously it makes sense.
Right.
And no one just does things just because, and you don't have morality just because you have to have a reason to be more moral.
Right.
So that's a whole other topic to go into, but
that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for joining us on the survey of numbers.
Yes.
It's been a journey.
Yes.
Sure. But yeah, we'll continue. Surveying the Bible. Next book is Deuteronomy. That'll be for the second generation of the Israelites.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll go over that.
Yes.
It'll be a lot of fun.
Yes. And that won't be this next episode. That episode after this one will be whatever topic we decide to do next.
Right.
But yeah. So thanks for joining the conversation.
You want to pray us out?
Yes. All right. Dear Jesus, thank you for another day. Thank you for another opportunity to hear your word and to talk about it. God, I know I am not well educated in this subject at this point on the Old Testament. Thank you for having Tristen, who does know. And I just pray that we're able to keep expanding our knowledge and that we're able to grow more and learn why things happen and when they happen and how they happened. Thank you for your knowledge and your understanding that you have given to us in a way. Thank you for inspiring people to write so that we have kind of guidelines. Thank you for loving us and caring for us, and I just pray that you continue to work in us and every day. In Jesus' name, we both said, Amen.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of The Basement. We'll catch you
next time. Hasta luego.